Hey guys, and welcome to another video today. This looks so cute. I wanted to talk about something I keep getting asked about, and it's why is my Crested Gecko sluggish? Why isn't it very active? Why does it keep sleeping? It doesn't really move much. I have the complete opposite problem, so I could probably help you out if you are experiencing this. Now, this could be caused by a number of things, but one quick fix that might actually solve this issue, I think, is caused by some not necessarily bad information we get told when we want to get a Crested Gecko, but slightly misleading. So oftentimes a selling point for a Crested Gecko is they're a reptile that you don't need heating for. They can just live in room temperature. And though they... Lyra, excuse me. And though it's true that in comparison to a lot of different reptiles, Crested Geckos... Oh my god, Lyra. I'm trying to film a video here. As I was saying, Crested Geckos don't require super hot temperatures, and actually anything over 82 degrees could be fatal, okay? So it is true to say that, you know, some people's room temperature can be okay. Some people live in climates that are actually probably too hot and maybe a Crested Gecko isn't for them. But if you live in cooler areas like in England, in autumn and winter, it can get kind of chilly and a little too chilly for the Crested Geckos. Now, will they survive? Will they still eat, still go about their day? Yes. But they will also be a bit sluggish. They probably won't move as much, probably not as much as Lyra. Just as I'm talking about Lyra, we have Drogo here. So he is a Chihuahua, and this information can also go towards his care. If you have a Chihuahua, Gargoyle, Gecko, Lychee, I feel like they get the same sort of misinformation just because where they're from, but actually they can all probably benefit from some heat. So as I was saying, sort of room temperature, autumn, winter, if you don't have the central heating on in your room, which can actually make it quite drying, the temperatures can drop, and I've had it drop to like 65, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Weirdly enough, I work in Celsius with leopard geckos and Fahrenheit with Crested Geckos. It gets kind of confusing. But the ideal temperature for a Crested Gecko is between 70 and 78, and I tend to aim for about 75. So what I use, and this won't be a surprise to many of you if you've been following me for a while, is a deep heat projector. And actually the animal I've used this with the longest is my Crested Gecko. Now, it is only set to about 75 degrees, and right now the room is 68, so you're only really gaining about 7 degrees. And so that doesn't seem like a lot. And once you buy the deep heat projector, the thermostat it needs, the lamp holder it goes in, you know, that can get pricey, I'm not gonna lie. But trust me when I say it makes a difference. So Lyra here, when we first moved over, her deep heat projector broke. It got smashed in transit. And so for the first few, maybe week or two, she didn't have a heater on, and it wasn't really cold at that point. It was relatively okay, and I thought she'd be fine. But I did start to notice she wasn't as active as usual, and you know, I thought maybe that's because we've moved, I'm not sure. Anyway, got the deep heat projector sorted, put it in, and she transformed. Now, this isn't just an advert for the deep heat projector. You can use other things. You can use a ceramic heat emitter, a heat mat. I've actually done a video where I compare all three, so you can sort of look at the price point, what works, what they do, all can be used. Some are better than others. There are coloured lights on the market for Crested Geckos, night lights. I personally wouldn't use them. It's up to you if you want to use them. I wouldn't. But with regards to Lyra, I actually see her basking under the deep heat projector. So the actual thermostat probe, I must admit, isn't very low down. I was worried about the screen roof getting too hot, so I didn't want it like a long way for it to travel. So it's a bit dark, but the stat probe is here on this branch. So this is the warmest it gets, and then there's a temperature gradient. So the further she moves away, the more cooler she gets. So that's important as well. When you're dealing with any kind of reptile, make sure there's a temperature gradient and a light and darkness gradient, light and shade. So it's really important they can actually move away. But this little one, even though she's moving really slowly right now, is full of energy. Her appetite's amazing. That's another thing you may be noticing. They may be sluggish, they might not be eating that much. And once again, they'll need that heat to properly digest their food. So if it is getting too cold, they're gonna go into sort of a brumation kind of thing, kind of dormant. They're not gonna eat as much, they're not gonna be as active. Yes, they'll survive, they'll get through the winter, but they're just not going to be full of life like Lyra kind of is. I mean, you're hanging on a leaf now. Could you just... Thank you. Oh, okay. Now, that was Drogo, and Chihuahuas can be fast, and they can blend in very well, but they also require, as I mentioned, they also require a nice enough temperature. Now, unfortunately for Drogo, he has a 45 by 45 by 60 Exoterra. He also has a Jungle Dawn and UV on top, and there's just simply not enough room to put any kind of overhead heater. So what we've had to do is put a heat mat on the side, obviously have a probe. The heat mat goes on the outside of the tank, and then the probe prevents it getting too hot, but that's in his dark hide as well. So see, he's retreating to it now. In the future, I'd like to give him a bigger tank and a deep heat projector. I think he'll absolutely love it. Another thing he has is his UV light comes on for 10 to 12 hours a day, so that generates some heat, and he loves hanging out underneath there. That's another thing. If you're in the UK, you may have noticed, if you're buying a Crested Gecko from a shop, that you need to buy UV now. I think it's like actually a mandatory thing, like the shop has to tell you to get UV before they can sell you a Crested Gecko. So that can also help generate some heat if you are using UV and leaving it on for 10 to 12 hours a day. So that's another thing you can try. But yeah, this is a kind of thing, I think, if you're not providing heat and you have noticed your Crested Gecko's going sluggish, not really doing much, not eating much, then I think introducing some heat could be very impactful. Just make sure you are using a thermostat with it. Some of those heaters can go over 60 degrees Celsius. See, here I'm coming with my Celsius. They can shoot up to those temperatures really quick, even hotter with some of them. So you might ask me, which one do I get? 50 watt, 75 watt, 100 watt. As long as you're using a thermostat, it should set to the temperature. Just make sure it's powerful enough. If it's too powerful, the thermostat should bring it down a bit. But yes, so I hope this has kind of helped. I hope you've got to see Lyra is active, especially when the light's turned off. She has gone a little shy now. But yeah, if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.